Welcome to the weekend edition of the Fast 5 Business News by Fear and Greed. I'm Michael Thompson, and hello, Sean Aylmer.
Hello, Michael.
Sean, on weekdays, it's all about the Fast 5, the top 5 business stories in 5 minutes. On the weekend, we still keep it to 5 minutes, but we're going to pick out the biggest business story of the week, the most remarkable story, a sleeper story, one that's flying under the radar, and our favourite story. Let's jump straight into it. What was the biggest story this week?
Look, I think the biggest story of the week is what's going on in the Middle East. The region is close to all-out war. Israel ground troops pushed into Lebanon. More than 200 Iranian ballistic missiles were then launched against Israel, followed by the Israeli Defense Force striking Beirut. A humanitarian crisis. The Albanese government is working to get 1,700 Australian citizens and residents and their families out of Lebanon. It's affected oil prices. They're rising. We're going to feel that at the Bowser shortly. It's put a lid on the jump in the Aussie dollar. That's back down below 69 US cents. It's also kept the lid on equity markets too. Bitcoin's come off. Gold is up. Plenty going on there. It's a humanitarian crisis and certainly affecting business.
Yeah, indeed. There was a couple of developments as well at home this week, Sean, in the housing market. There were two kind of main features here. We had house price growth in several major cities, including Melbourne, stalling. The property market is cooling on the back of ongoing high interest rates. In the first month of spring, dwelling values rose by just 0.4%, taking the September quarter rise to 1%. The other big development this week was actually in the rental market, where we saw annual rent increases for houses hitting multi-year lows in Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane, Perth and Adelaide. Melbourne and Canberra, rents have actually gone backwards. So there may be the first indication that the rental boom is drawing to a close, perhaps. Rents are still extremely, extremely high, but maybe some signs of hope there, Sean.
Let's hope so. Can I tell you my most remarkable story?
Please do.
It is the great rotation into resource stocks from bank stocks, typified by the fact that BHP is now the number one company on the ASX in terms of market cap, 230 billion. It's taken over from Commonwealth Bank. BHP is up, and all the big three miners are up 12 to 15% since the middle of last week. The banks have dropped off. It's all on the back of commentary from Beijing saying they're going to stimulate that particular economy. The bank's just a little bit out of favour. Quite phenomenal how that shift from bank stocks to resources has played out over the past week or so.
Another remarkable story, Sean, was the way Virgin Australia finished the week in a much stronger position than it started. And Qantas is actually the one that's kind of to blame for it, because Qatar Airways has agreed to buy 25% of Virgin from its private equity owner, Bain Capital. Basically, Virgin's now going to be able to start doing long-haul international routes again using Qatar's planes. It's still got to be reviewed and approved and everything, but it's looking pretty good. It's going to be great news for passengers, more competition in the long-haul market. But that Qantas element, right, that I mentioned, the fact is that Qantas lobbied hard against Qatar Airways being allowed to have extra flights into and out of Australia last year, and the government sided with Qantas over that one. Well, now Qatar has actually got plenty of extra flights now through its Virgin purchase. They don't need to be approved separately, so Qatar's had a win here, Virgin has had a win here, the passengers have had a win here, and Qantas has really had a bit of a loss. I think it's pretty remarkable.
I think it is remarkable. Can I tell you my sleeper story for the week?
Yes.
Yes, it's how fast the hydrogen energy sector is going backwards, as demonstrated by Origin Energy's decision to pull the plug on its investments in the technology. Hydrogen's been lauded as a clean energy source, particularly in heavy industry, transport, that type of stuff. Problem is, it's expensive and the technology breakthroughs aren't happening fast enough. Fortescue Metals, it pulled out or dropped plans for green hydrogen production a couple of months ago. Now we've got Origin Energy. The Albanese government has pushed billions of dollars to try and encourage it. Not sure who's going to take advantage of those tax credits and those subsidies, because all the big players are pulling out. I think it's just interesting that we're not talking a lot about the fact that hydrogen does not look, at least in the near term, to be an energy of the future.
That's a good sleeper story. Sean, can I give you my favourite story? And I'll do this one very, very quickly. It is the fact that vintage shopping is booming. And we're really talking about secondhand clothes here, aren't we? And in Australia, you think kind of Vinnies and the Salvos and things. But in the US, it is just going nuts at the moment. Sales are growing at 7 times the pace of the broader retail industry. Demand is so strong that big retailers like Banana Republic and H&M and Lululemon, etc., they're all getting into it. And they are all now selling pre-loved clothes. How long, Sean, before this kind of trend starts to spread to Australia? I reckon it's mere weeks.
I got a quick nomination for my favourite story from Japan. This is the gym group called Choco's app, which actually emphasises everything but getting fit. Things like teeth whitening, manicures, photo booths. There's also gym equipment. Basically, they were a high-end personal training group. COVID hit, realized they needed to go to the masses, cut prices down to about 25% of what they were. Now, over 2 years, 15,000 locations, 1.2 million plus members. Phenomenal. People are turning up in droves and not working out. I love the idea of having a gym membership where you don't get fit.
Yeah, it's a gym group in name only, isn't it?
Exactly.
Great story. There we go. 5 minutes and pretty much everything you need to know in the world of business. Thank you, Sean.
Thank you, Michael.
We'll be back on Monday morning with the top 5 business stories in 5 minutes. Don't forget to hit follow and join us online on Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, Facebook and X. I'm Michael Thompson, and this is the Fast 5 Business News by Fear and Greed.